Wait, she has trans friends in third grade?
Yeah.
As I always say to my woke friends, we voted for the same person. You're just why she lost.
There's no difference between Luke saying he's Megatron than a 4-year-old boy saying that he's a girl or anything else. Ironically, Transformers and trans people. It's not
Right?
that different, I suppose. More than meets the eye. That's what they say.
Well, we pulled straws and I get to begin today. So welcome, guys. Good to see you. I was away last
Hi,
week.
Drew.
What's that?
Oh, I just said hi. I'm
She
Oh,
sorry.
just said
hi.
hi. Just a hello. How you doing? Nice to see you. Before we dive in, and I can see Drew is very focused on diving into the topics of the day. Sage, I can't quite see what's behind you in that I don't know where you are. It seems like you're maybe in the office of a used car dealership, but I can't quite
It
tell
looks like
what's
that
behind
set
you
of
over
that
there.
Shane Gillis tires, his new series tires.
Well, yeah, I also can't. Yeah, I got a little distance. I can't quite see everything there. But what's going on over there? Are you have a side
I'm
gig now?
offended.
Are you running a mom and pop shop? What's happening?
I'm trying, and I'm offended that you said used cars. It's previously owned, okay? Don't guilt, don't
Sage's
shame,
previously owned.
watch her. No, I am driving with my parents and my Dave from Jacksonville, Florida to High Point, North Carolina. My son Nicholas graduates tomorrow, Saturday,
Oh,
from High
congratulations.
Point. Thank you. 2 down, 1 to
Amazing, yeah.
go. And on the way, we stopped for gas, coffee, and to pee. Maybe not in that exact order. And we didn't real. And we're like, you know what? What's a good coffee spot besides Starbucks? And we drive up the road and we see Black Rifle Coffee, which many of us are familiar with. Excellent coffee. We were like, oh my gosh, this is much better than Starbucks. We run in, and connected is 9 Line Apparel, which is pro-America. Take a look. You guys should look it up. 9 Line pro-America, very conservative, patriotic. Awesome line. Ends up, we knew the guy. One of the co-founders is here. And behind me, I mean, that is the entire manufacturing shop for this
wow.
apparel line where I just came to pee. This is all that this started off as. And so we are chatting with the owner and the dogs and the employees and looking at the shirts that I just bought. He's like, good thing I didn't know you were here because you would have got it for free and now you paid for it. And then I'm like, I have a show to do. And they love our show. So it's hysterical what has happened that just, a pee break off 95 North towards North Carolina. And now I
There
get to take my
is
show at this amazing
And they got
company.
free product
unpack
placement
here.
right
A
there.
lot to unpack, guys. I'm
So
sure law
there's
enforcement is
always
on their
something
way.
interesting with me. Always something crazy, right? So, hi. By the way, Drew, real quick, can I say, because I'm excited with Nicole, Dr. Sapir. There's so many doctors and medical professionals, but practicing doctors, who I would
Yeah.
never have heard of if not for COVID, if not for the BS that happened 5 or 6 years ago. It's really fascinating to see. And I think despite the negativity, we'll talk about later in the show, there's so much positivity to come from that difficult time where we've been able to
Yeah.
discover people like Dr. Sapir.
No, you're absolutely right, Sage. Is that we didn't know what we didn't know, and I still like almost every week I'm discovering new things about how our government functions and so many things. But medicine and how medicine was, the weaknesses in our medical system that I didn't know were there were blown wide open and apparent to everyone, and we're doing what we can to correct it. So yes, it takes a crisis to bring the bad and the good out. So here we are.
I mean, it quite literally brought all of us together. I mean, if
It
Sage
did.
if Sage basically hadn't been canned, she'd still be doing mainstream and we'd be in completely different worlds. And Drew, you and I knew each other obviously before COVID, but during that craziness and both being in LA, like that's what kind of brought us together. So, and
Amazing.
Jillian also red pilled because of that. So that's what kind of brought us all here.
Well, and the three of us in particular, you were having clandestine dinners that I sat next to with Sage at one of them and shared steak
We
and
would have
steak
been
and fish.
we would have been arrested if they had known that we were sharing food.
I know.
Imagine
Too
that.
close.
Not from 6 feet apart. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So another friend of mine, I don't know if you guys know, but I consider Bill Maher a very good friend. And obviously we don't agree on everything all the time, but I don't agree with any of my good friends all the time. And so he is someone, I want to tell you a little history here. I used to do Politically Incorrect all the time. I thought that was the best show on television. It was so much fun. I was on there what's called Rapid Response Team. If someone dropped out, I would head over to CBS and do it. And when he got fired for making I mean, difficult comments, but not fireable offenses. He was the first cancellation. I want to tell you
Yeah.
something. And what he said was, it was during 9/11, and he said, you keep calling these guys cowards. I don't know about that. Not very cowardly to fly a plane into a building. It seems like that's the opposite of cowardly. Boom, fired. And I
Yeah.
said to him at that point, I said, I stand beside you. That is bullshit. I will stand with you. And ever since then, I have stood beside him. He's always found his way to the truth. And he is a truth seeker, which is rare to find these days. It just takes him a little while to get some of the same truths that we would see, perhaps, but he gets there. He gets there. And in this particular clip, he is talking to David Cross, comedian, who is clearly in his bubble. And Bill points it out to him very appropriately. And here's an example of how far downstream David Cross is and how much more awake Bill is.
You need to be checked. People
Yeah,
need to be
I
checked,
think they'll be
including your little girl.
okay
She needs to be checked.
with her black friends and trans friends and not even understanding. She
Trans?
doesn't know.
Wait, she has trans friends in third grade?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, they know they're trans in third grade.
I knew one of her friends. I knew when he was a girl.
How old?
I think just turned 9.
Actually, more than one person who said to me, a woman said, I was what they called a tomboy. If I was alive now and acted the way I did then, that's what they would have done to me.
Well, nobody's doing this to her.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
literally, nobody is doing this to her.
how old?
She is, or he is, either 8 or I think 9.
Okay,
Just
then
turned 9.
somebody is doing something because 8 or 9-year-olds can't.
No, you know what they're doing?
Can't do anything on their own.
No, they're buying them boys' clothes.
And telling them you're a boy now. Okay,
No,
wait.
they're not telling them. They're just agreeing with. They're like going,
Well, they're
okay,
agreeing
honey.
with an 8-year-old because when
that's
when has their judgment ever been off? At 8. Good luck with President Vance, because as I always say to my woke friends, we voted for the same person. You're just why she lost.
And so, to me, that was actually one of the lesser sort of moments in that whole interview where Bill was pushing on him by being in a bubble. And yeah, I mean, what else do we allow 8-year-olds to be the sole arbiter and judge of in our world? It's kind of wild, including what they want to do with everything. We nod along with 8-year-olds. We don't agree and reinforce necessarily.
There's a lot there. Let me jump in here quick. So first, Bill deserves a ton of credit. We've all sat in that room with Bill. We're all friends with Bill. Look, I'll just say it quick. In my opinion, he doesn't get to the end conclusion when it comes to who he's voting for. But putting that aside, and I put that as a minor thing at this point. David Marcus, I don't know if you know him, Dave Marcus. He's a writer for many things, but he writes for FoxNews.com is one of the things. And he wrote a piece this week basically saying Bill Maher should stay a Democrat. So he made all the arguments that Bill Maher is now in essence a Republican because of all, free speech and all the stuff. But then he was like, but you know what? We still do need someone saying they're trying. So that's one portion that I think Bill does something kind of important there, whether I agree with the voting at not or at the end. To me, that's Bill at his best. He's bringing these guys into his home. That's his house. I mean, he's got a pretty big house and it's just a building on the property. But, when you bring guys, you guys have been to my home studios, when you bring people into your home, to be combative with them, to call them out on BS and everything else, it's not the easiest thing to do. It's why I act.
You're a guest in your house.
Right. So, for example, I got into a big debate with peers in my house about a bunch of things, and we did debate it, but I felt I was pulling punches because you came to my home, right? You pet my dog. It does shave a little bit off, but Bill consistently is doing this now where he's bringing people he disagrees with into his house. He basically is saying, Cross, come on, you're a fool. And Cross, I'm not a fan of Cross. He has said, I think I blocked him on Twitter. He has said, call me a racist and all the usual stuff. But no 8-year-old knows what gender they are. I've got the boys right now, they're really into Transformers, and Luke will be like, I'm Megatron. And there's no difference between Luke saying he's Megatron than a 4-year-old boy saying that he's a girl or anything else. There really is no difference. And he even does it with a little gleam in his eye, like he knows he's not Megatron, but he wants to see if he can kind of get a rise out of me, right? Ironically, transformers and trans people. It's not that
Right?
different, I suppose. More than meets the eye. That's what they say. But I think I really do think it's great what Bill's done. And I've tried to stop giving him so much, even privately when I text him, I try not to give him so much shit anymore about the voting thing because he is doing something good. It's becoming increasingly difficult to do it. And he is in Hollywood. And Drew, you're around a lot of those, I used to go to those parties too. And a lot of these people are wacky, but you want to give them some sort of off ramp. I think Bill's doing it.
I was going to start with that as well. So much credit to Bill, who has gone from saying some of the nastiest things about Donald Trump just a couple of years ago, to the level of who's the Kathy Griffin, the comedian, and with the grossness that she has done online. I mean, I don't think he was
Yeah.
quite there, but he was close, and he was proud of it. To doing what you just said, which is bringing people with whom he disagrees into his home and having a conversation, which is what all of us have always wanted to do. Well, who was the actor O'Donnell that was in there a couple of weeks ago
Yeah.
who admitted
Yeah.
that his wife and daughter were beating him up because of the Kamala questions, like insanity he got on him when he brought Charlie Kirk in there, and how beautifully both of them handled that respectfully. And now with Cross, who disappoints me to another level. I didn't know or care who he was before, and I certainly don't now. But at 62 years old, the fact that he is allowing 8-year-olds to not just, first and foremost, make their own decisions, right? Your decision should be, is it vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream for dessert? Do I want to have Nikes or Adidas on the playground? Those are the decisions that
Yeah.
8-year-olds should be making, right? Who do I invite to my birthday party? Like that's it. Instead, the 62-year-old man is saying that no, they know, and we are just listening. When he said, "I knew him when he was a girl,"
Yeah. Yeah. That's
and
it.
when he
That's the
corrected
tell.
himself, right there, and then when he corrected the pronoun, she, because it's all bullshit, and he knows it. And I think that's the scariest part for me, is that the adults in the room, which we've been saying this about so many different topics, right? The adults in the room are choosing to not be adults, choosing to not parent, choosing to not lead, and which will now lead to devastating consequences for these kids all year long. So that is established, I think, especially in certain parts of the country. But kudos to Maher, because now this guy's being exposed. Maybe by exposing him to this level, which Bill didn't do it, Cross did it himself by just speaking his truth, right? This is how the conversation continues, and hopefully we'll eventually begin to fix these problems and literally save these kids.
Well, I will just say that Bill, I feel like I moved him along a little bit. One time we had a conversation a couple of years ago, and I said, we bonded on the fact that we were educated at a similar time in a similar environment, a similar style, where the pursuit of the truth was what we were concerned with, and
Yeah.
remained our task throughout life. And truth has become marginalized and just not even an issue any longer. And he and I bonded on that. And I feel like it really got him back on the track of he's looking for the truth, and good for him.
Yeah.
I fully support everything as where I've always been with him. So
If I could just quickly say one other thing about him, if you watch the time I was on Club Random, which is probably about 3 years ago now, we had never met before. Bill had been a hero. He had been a hero of mine for 20 years. I mean, Drew, you mentioned Politically Correct. When I was doing stand-up, I started in the late 90s. That was the show I wanted to be on. It was by far the best comedy show and news and politics. It was all the stuff that I loved. He was brilliant at that show, throwing to commercials. He could always take, it's something that I try to do on my show now. He could always take the topic that they were doing and seamlessly weave it into the throw to the commercial. Like he was a great broadcaster too, which people don't think of him in that sense. But anyway, we sat down. I had never met him before. Chevy Chase was in there right before. So there's one of my comedy heroes. So
wow.
I was like almost, I would say hi to anybody. If I admire you, I'll always go up to you. It doesn't matter where you are. But I was so kind of it wasn't nervous exactly, but it felt like my whole life led up to this moment that I didn't even say hi to Chevy, even though I had the opportunity because I was just so focused on what was going on. And if you watch, we had a 2-hour conversation. You watch that first half hour, he's really trying to figure me out, like right-wing Dave Rubin. And then suddenly we break through that not everything's about politics. And then he starts understanding all our references are the same. Our love of Johnny Carson's the same. I lived in LA. We know the same restaurants. And then you could see it was like all the ice just kind of melted away. So the beauty of what he's doing is that even for a guy that lives in the political world like him, it's not all about politics. So he's able to sit down with David Cross and just kind of disassemble it without it feeling violent, basically.
Right. I don't know if you know this now, but I was the very first guest on Club Random.
Is that right?
Guest
No
one.
I'd love to.
way.
You know what? I'm gonna watch that next time I'm on a plane because I would love to see his evolution in that because it took him a
And
while
mine
to
too.
start.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
And what one final thought too, because I give him so much credit because when he was starting Club Random, this is in the fall of 2020. Where are we now?
probably.
No,
22, I think.
2023. And so he had his podcast, but then to bring other podcasters on, I remember I had just settled my lawsuit with Disney. I had just left ESPN and I was in no man's land, didn't know what I wanted to do. And I went on his show. And during it, twice, he's like, you need your own show. You should come under my podcast umbrella. And I was like, well, he's high. He's always high. He's drunk. He's literally smoking right there. And he's like, I'm like,
Yeah.
he's not going to remember this conversation. And guess what? A month later, I started the Sage Steele show because of Bill Maher. So when you talk about an evolution, and we didn't go that deep into politics, but you talk about diversity of thought and conversations. For me to be the first person he brought on, I was so honored. And that's why for me, like forever, I owe him for that opportunity. And then that's how I met you, Dave Rubin, which means that's how I met you. Like, it's a beautiful thing. It all comes from being open to talking to others who don't necessarily believe in you. That's the full circle part of this. If you just drop your personal everything and what gets you so riled up and angry and start to ask some questions, you might not agree, but you might understand why. And look what can happen. What he's doing is a great service to our country right now.
Well, let's just dedicate the whole hour to Bill.
Here we go. I was going to say, we just did the This Is Your Life Bill Maher, except you're not on the show with us right now.
All right, who's up next?
Let's stay. How about we stay in LA? We stop talking about Bill for a second.
That right there is a segue. You're just giving Bill credit, but look at you, Dave Rubin. Okay, go.
You know what I'm talking about, Drew, right? Like the way he used to do that. I know Sage gets it. The way he could just, they would be in the middle of a heated debate and somehow he could swing it to the commercial in like.
It is still one of the best late night television shows of all time. It did not get the credit it deserved. And if you look back on that, it's a time capsule for history too. Everything was discussed, and everyone was on it.
I promise this is the last thing I'll say on this, but just to show how long we've all been doing these kinds of things and how things change, I was an intern on Politically Incorrect for 2 weeks while they were doing shows in Brooklyn. And so when you see then that I was able to eventually make it to real time myself after that, 20-something years later,
crazy.
I guess it's kind of cool. If you guys think brands like Dr. Squatch, Burt's Bees, or Native are still the small, wholesome companies they once were, think again. Most of them have been bought up by massive corporations and private equity firms, and over time, they've started cutting corners. But one company's doing it differently, the Van Man Company. They were early to the tallow movement, creating grass-fed towel moisturizers before it became trendy, and they've stayed consistent ever since. Here's why that matters. Tallow is one of the best moisturizers you can use because its fatty acids are almost identical to your skin's natural oils. Your skin will feel softer, smoother, and deeply nourished without that greasy, artificial residue you get from products packed with chemicals and fillers. Plus, because there's no junk in it, a little goes a long way. One jar lasts much longer than you'd expect, and it's not just a moisturizer. Tallow Balm can replace your lotion, night cream, wrinkle cream, even things like Neosporin or Diaper Balm. It's powerful enough to actually support skin healing, yet made from ingredients so clean you could literally eat them. Ready to ditch the corporate chemicals? Go to vanman.shop/friends and use code FRIENDS for 15% off your first order. Check out the lip balm. Look at these moist lips. I love this stuff. That's vanman.shop/friends and use code FRIENDS for 15% off your first order. Van Man, real ingredients, no exceptions. Let's stick in LA as long as we're talking about Bill. This is not about him. Obviously, they have a mayoral election coming up. Huge problems in LA, which we don't have to belabor. We always talk about them. Drew has to live it every day of his life. Ha. And they've got this guy, Spencer Pratt. I'm not a reality TV guy, but he was in The Hills, I guess, and a couple other things. Not somebody that should have or wanted to be in politics. His house gets burned down there during the Pacific Palisades fire. He, in essence, suddenly became political because it hit him at his doorstep quite literally. Here's a portion of his latest campaign ad.
This is where Mayor Bass lives. You notice something? Or here, where Nithya Raman's $3 million mansion sits. They don't have to live in the mess they've created where you live. This is where I live. They let my home burn down. I know what the consequences of failed leadership are. That's why I'm running for mayor. For my sons and the rest of us Angelinos that want to stop these corrupt politicians from destroying our city. We are going to get the golden age of Los Angeles back.
Guys, I gotta say that's a pretty freaking solid ad.
Love it.
To some extent, I don't love the idea of going in front of somebody's house and saying they live here, they live here. Mamdani just did that with Ken Griffin at his pied à terre and said, this is his $238 million thing. On one hand, I don't like that. However, I will say in this case, in that they are public people, to juxtapose, okay, they've got their $1 million mansions over here in these nice areas. And then to go, here's Skid Row, and now I'll show you the homeless encampments. And by the way, I myself used to live in the Pacific Palisades, which, basically everything's 10 mil plus, and it's devastated. I thought it was pretty effective, maybe a little heavy-handed, and I liked actually a little honest righteous indignation. Like, generally, Democrats have this constant righteous indignation that's not deserved, but it kind of felt real to me. Drew, you're the LA guy.
Oh, it's a direct hit. It's an absolute bullseye. Unfortunately, he's running as a Republican, so the probability of him getting through is almost zero.
Oh, he is running as a Republican? I was a little, we covered it on my show this morning, and okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I think so. I could get that wrong, but I heard somebody say that. But he's got like 14% of the vote. Mary Bass has like 24%, and Nithya Raman has like 18%. So he's not out of the running. But there's something that goes on in this state and in the city where it's impossible to get somebody other than, Karen Bass elected. And it doesn't matter about their ability or their policy. It just doesn't seem to matter to people, which is so stunning. The question really is, how bad does it have to get before this state is willing to do something? It's how I got involved with stuff. The COVID thing woke me up so badly. I was like, God, we got to do something. And I started looking at governor run, and I wisely thought, actually, I needed some more treatment for my prostate cancer. That sort of took me out of it. But it was like, we got to get people in here that can do stuff. I mean, Rick Caruso would have been amazing. He would have changed the city, would have completely run things differently. But we're back to the same old, and it's just catastrophic. The question in my mind is just how far down are we going to go?
But that's the reason why I think he had to come out so hard, to your point, Dave, with that commercial. And just, yes, maybe you don't want them showing your houses, but at this point, what else can anyone do who genuinely wants to try to help that city and that state, for that matter? You've got to bash people over the head with it, because apparently people in California refuse to look at the facts. Like,
I agree. Listen,
think that
Nithya Raman's going to be worse than Karen Bass.
No, she's bananas.
She's famous for saying she's furious with Toyota for making it so easy for gangbangers to take a blowtorch and cut out the catalytic converters under the cars so they can be resold. Mind you have to have a big industrial jack. It takes like 3 people, a lighting instrument, and some sort of sawzall. I mean, what is she talking about? It's literally welded into the chassis of the car. And her take is, let's not worry about the criminals. I'm mad at Toyota for making it easy to them.
Right. Like, they have to, it feels like they have to try to come up with the most creative ways to be stupid. And people in Los Angeles completely fall for it. So listen, when Spencer Pratt first came out, I am not a reality TV person either. And I had heard of The Hills, Heidi Montag, whoever he was or is married to. I can't keep track. I don't care. That's why people blow him off at first. But you know what? They blew off Arnold Schwarzenegger for a while too. They blew off Jesse Ventura in Minnesota, and they blew off Ronald Reagan, okay? So there are people who can come from a completely different stratosphere. But if hi, Donald Trump, right? Like, if you have good ideas and come out and genuinely can explain them, I mean, can it get worse? Apparently with this other woman, it could actually get worse. But he is blowing up Karen Bass, and I thought I saw, Drew, that the polls were tightening between Spencer and Karen Bass. But if, to your point, that there's no chance because he has an R next to his name, then I don't know what it's all for.
True, but again, to me, I don't care. I don't care if there's a Z next. I don't care what's going on.
Right.
We just need somebody who can do the job and who has and I think it has to come from outside politics. That's why listen, you forget Sarah Palin's story early on, and I don't know how apocryphal it is or not, but the story where she was sitting at a hockey game watching her kids and went, I think I do a better job than these guys, and became the governor and did a good job. Her whole story is sort of washed out that little piece. But, this is people that come from obscure, this is how we're supposed to run as a country.
Right.
This was the whole design.
Yeah. But it's
people are
desperation,
sovereign.
and because of the fires, like that's when Spencer Pratt took that turn, and he's been so vocal about it. I just for my show this weekend, Say Steele show, Steve Hilton, of course, running for governor in the state of California, had him on, and the things that he talked about specifically with the fire. I had Kennedy on a few weeks ago too from Fox News, and she still has a home in Pacific Palisades. Well, she did, because it's gone and burned down. And so I think it feels like, Drew, you being there, that has been the turning point for so many people.
Yep.
And the ineptitude and some of the things that were intentionally not done to prepare for the fires that are coming every single year with the Santa Ana winds. And so that's the turning point for Spencer Pratt. There are still tens of thousands of people, and they've been dropped by their insurance companies, right? And they're in this whole fair system trying to figure it out. I love it. Everybody has a turning point, no matter what it is that we're doing. For Spencer Pratt, that's what it was. And why not go, excuse my language today, go balls to the wall, put all the commercials out, and just you have to, if you care about that city. And he might not win because he's a Republican, but at least he's trying to do something. Everybody else just goes, I don't know.
Sage, I got to tell you, this random office in a warehouse is really working for you. It's got you jazzed up.
My mom's right out there. Don't tell her about my language.
Sage said balls. Watch out. Well, the only thing that I would say, although I agree in spirit, of course, I agree with everything that Sage just said right there. However, in voting habits and patterns, if you look at Democrat-run cities, think about it this way. New York City had de Blasio. He was a horrific, in essence, socialist mayor who reversed all of the good stuff that, Bloomberg did before him. And then what did they do? They went to Mamdani, so they got even worse. If you look at LA itself, who was mayor before Karen Bass? It was Eric Garcetti. He was a pretty lefty maniac on his knees for BLM, and then they went worse with Karen Bass. If you look at Chicago, they had Lori Lightfoot, Beetlejuice, who was a lefty lunatic, and then it got worse with Brandon Johnson. If you look at, I had another one. I had one more was, I had one more. I almost nailed it, but I think I illustrated the point there.
You did nail it.
They consistently go the wrong way. The last one was Seattle. They had this lunatic who was quite literally like, we don't want to, I think we played the clip. We don't want to jail people. I want to know if they were molested as a child. And now they've got this crazy woman who is applauding as the billionaires all leave. So the point of all of that is, while the righteous indignation is great, and it's great to see people wake up and all of that stuff, for whatever reason, the bulk of the people seem to go the other way. So we will see. However, I will be in LA in a couple weeks. Drew, I think we're going to do a little something, if I'm not mistaken. And
that's true.
Maybe we could walk around Skid Row and hang with the
good idea.
peeps
It's a great idea.
see what's what,
Let's do it.
Yeah, you'll fit right in, Dave Rubin.
Actually, maybe dinner in Brentwood sounds better.
Exactly. Amazing.
Let me throw to one other thing here, because we've talked a lot about Ozempic and the GLP-1s on the show, and obviously, Drew, you've helped us understand a little more what's going on there. Olivia Wilde, honestly, I'm not hugely familiar with her work, but she's an actress, and a video came out of her on a red carpet, and the drastic change in her look. Take a look at this.
When I read the script, it was already set in San Francisco, and Rashida Jones and Will McCormick had made that decision, and I was so immediately intrigued because I do love the city, and I feel that it's so telling when a script sets a very specific location. You can tell what that's supposed to mean and what it means about these characters, and as you see when you'll see the film, hopefully, it really does make sense that this particular group is from here. And
okay, so you don't even really need to listen to what she's talking about there. You look at that picture of her. She's, by any estimation, I think you'd say she's objectively a beautiful woman.
She's beautiful.
She had a certain structure to her face or something that maybe she wasn't happy with, like it was a little wide or something. That just sounds crazy to even say. But she was absolutely beautiful. She looks gaunt. She has, that sunken eye thing right now. And a lot of people were saying this is almost the worst or best, depending on which way you look at it, example of what's going on with the GLP-1s. The other ones, of course, are the
Kelly Osbourne.
thank you, Kelly, and the mom, who also are
Yeah.
looking, whatever you want to call that.
So
Drew, go
so
ahead.
I look at this and I go, look, let's say there were no such thing as GLP-1s. Let's say we're just looking at that. You go, well, that is starvation. That's an eating disorder if
Yeah, that's a good point.
if she was
Yeah.
not in a concentration camp, or it's cancer cachexia or AIDS cachexia, something like that. But now we have a drug that causes that. And that's when they talk about Ozempic face. That's what they're talking about, where all the muscle is broken down for calories because she is starving. And she doesn't feel it because this drug blocks that in the body. And again, I can't blame the patients. I blame the guys prescribing it. What are they doing? They're continuing to prescribe it to somebody who is in true starvation. I don't know. I don't know where this is going to stop. It's going to hurt a lot of people.
Ariana Grande, I don't know if she's involved in this as well. She looks sick. We
Yeah.
talked about Serena Williams on the show and so many other people. And I think there's two things. I think to your point about the doctors, yes, shame on these doctors. Also, what about their loved ones? I kind of liken it to the Jill Biden conversation that we had. Like when you see your loved one, the sitting president of the United States at the time, who is not well, and you ignore it. And in that case, a whole different story maybe. But when you see your loved ones looking like this, what are you doing anything about it? And I know that's easier said than done. I
Yeah.
do honestly know that. But do you have anyone in your life who cares about you as a human being, as a daughter, sister, best friend, lover, whatever it is, versus you and what you can do for them? I've had this conversation with friends and my husband about, okay, like even with plastic surgery. And I mean, is anyone saying, let me get you some help because you don't need that. You look beautiful the way you are. So that's the loved ones part of it, where I want all of us who, and I think, listen, I can admit that now that a few years back when I was going through my, tough time with suing Disney right after a divorce and just a really tough time. Like I can look back at pictures now and I almost cried recently because I've never had a weight problem ever. And I've worked very hard to stay in shape, but I now know that it was a little bit of body dysmorphia. I wasn't starving myself, but what I saw in the mirror was different than the reality.
Yeah.
And so I imagine this is part of it.
Yep.
I did
That's
have
correct.
a couple people in my life say, girlfriend, what are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, do you see
Yeah.
this? So I'm just
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
out. So I want to have empathy with this and not just be like, these idiots.
No, of course.
But like, especially with something that's that it wasn't nearly as drastic with me, but that is drastic. All the people that we've talked about. If you went from being obese to being average size and weight for your height, that's different. This is completely off. And I'm so sad. And in the meantime, what do we do? We still have all these commercials on every network witnessing whether it's Serena Williams or Charles Barkley or anybody sticking a shot in their arm to get, and we know the result. Like, I don't know. What's frustrating? Trying to eat healthy when you're busy and realizing most convenient snacks are anything but healthy. They're packed with preservatives, weird additives, and ingredients that you can barely even pronounce. And that is exactly why I started reaching for Paleo Valley beef sticks. Now I'm obsessed because it's one of those brands where the truth is actually on the label. Their beef sticks are made from 100% grass-fed and finished beef and sourced from small family farms here in the U.S., not factory farms. And that makes a huge difference. There's no junk in them, no added nitrates or nitrites, no weird preservatives, just real whole food ingredients. Most beef sticks on the market are made with preservatives that have been linked to things like brain fog, low energy, joint discomfort, even digestive issues. But Paleo Valley does things differently. Their sticks are naturally fermented, and that makes them gut friendly and easier to absorb with more bioavailable nutrients your body can actually use. So instead of reaching for something that leaves you feeling sluggish, This is clean. It's a clean, nutrient dense snack that you can genuinely feel good about, especially if you live a life on the run on airplanes like I do. Each stick has about 6 grams of protein, helps keep you full longer, and is perfect again when you're on the go. So, if you are like me and always looking for a clean, convenient protein snack that you can trust, go to paleovalley.com/friends or use code friends at checkout for 15% off of your first purchase. Once again, paleovalley.com/friends or use code friends at checkout.
To be fair, there's utility to this. It's not useful. It's just it's being overdone, and people that don't need it in the first place.
Yes, of course, there are some who need it. That's my point. But Olivia Wilde didn't need it.
No.
And so
And
who was there to help her, and how can we help her? Because social media goes the opposite way with this.
Well, I love what you said there, Drew, at the top, which is if these drugs didn't exist, and then you didn't see someone for 2 months, and then you saw, like, if you took that Olivia Wilde, you know her as a friend, and you didn't see her for 2 months, then that other person, you open up the door and that other person is there, you would immediately think they're sick. You're right. You would think it was something quite horrific, probably. So
or a terrible eating disorder, and her life is in danger from that. This is like sort of creating a whole new category of body dysmorphia and eating disorders, really.
You know, it's interesting. I think when we talked about it last time, we talked a little bit about the bone density part of this. And one of the things that I've noticed is, have you seen when a lot of these people, and it's because we see it's a lot of celebrities, when they're walking the red carpet, they look like they can barely walk, and they look tired and weak. And obviously there's some component related to not eating.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if it's also related to that bone density issue that seems to be popping up a little bit more and more. I obviously, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist.
Yeah,
I have
you
no
don't
idea.
feel that till you break your hip, frankly. But there are tons of other issues around nausea and gut dysmotilities, and there's a lot of stuff going on. There's no such thing that as a molecule, a drug that is all good or all bad. It's all a risk-reward analysis, and it needs to be used carefully. We've decided this drug is only good, and that is how you create only difficulty for the patients.
You know, Sage, you mentioned Charles Barkley, and, you know, I just see the clips now, and, you know, has he said he's on it? He has, right? He's on something? Has he officially said it? Do you know?
He's promoting it, and
I
will tell you, he is, and I will tell you, I know Charles, and during our NBA finals, we've been on many planes together, and I remember one time it was during that Heat Spurs finals in 2013. Dave Rubin, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I remember he's like, as soon as these finals are over, girlfriend, he's like, I got to go to fat camp. My daughter's sending me back to fat camp. He's always had weight issues, and so he acknowledges it. So for him, again, like definitive weight problems. And so, Drew, sometimes it is needed and maybe even necessary. I interrupted your point, Dave, about Charles Barkley, but he's had this issue for a long time.
No. But he was right. He was known as the round mound of rebound. So he was always thought of as a pudgier guy, and people were always giving him crap because he wasn't a great defensive player because he had a little extra weight and whatever. Although he punched above his weight because he was only 6'5" and he was an amazing rebounder. But my point is, when you look at him now, like just objectively, if you look at him, the meme that I keep seeing on Instagram is that he's wearing somebody else's suits because he's got all his old suits that are out to here, and his head has now become really small, so he looks like the shrunken head guy in Beetlejuice.
You know,
I say that as someone that loves the guy. You know what I mean?
There's something really. Look, there's something very interesting in here too. Now that people are living healthy longer, there's those of us that have worked out and watched our diet our whole life. There's a whole new category that needs to be sort of addressed, which is, I'm in my late 60s. How much should a guy my age weigh? I lost a bunch of weight on a diet. It was easy, and I thought, I'll do this. And I felt feeble. I thought, no, this is not. Your muscle mass is a very important thing. Sarcopenia is the enemy of aging. I say this all the time. And you've got to keep your muscle mass up. And it's harder and harder as you age. And that has to be emphasized to people.
I also think go ahead, Sage.
No, go ahead, Dave.
Well, just real quick at the end, like, to me, it's like one thing. Okay, so these people, so they're larger in general. You see all that weight dropping off, and you can feel good about that, right? Although it brings up secondary issues because then the really big ones have all kinds of extra skin and all stuff. But to me, the weird thing is what's happening to these people's faces. Like, who does Olivia Wilde, and this gets to the body dysmorphia part, when you look that gaunt, like as you get older, you want some fat in your face because otherwise you
Yes.
start looking that other way. So it's weird. It's like, okay, they're starting to look in the mirror, and maybe Barkley's like, I was worked out, but I had this extra fat. I look in the mirror now and I look leaner. So he's feeling good about that. But eventually when that face thing starts happening, but I guess it's like you're on it, and how do you balance it right? And nobody probably knows exactly, and all the other issues that Drew
Well, but
brought up.
then they end up balancing with, okay, let me put fillers in my face. So
Yeah,
it's a whole other thing, and there's issues with that. And again, it's Hollywood, but I don't know. I don't know how this stops. Is it when people start to die?
Yes, that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen, I promise. I've seen a couple deaths, and that's going to become more widespread. I don't know why it's not getting out. It's weird. We'll find out why with time.
Well, that's what it seems to take for people to
Yeah.
fully be honest about it and address it.
Yeah.
And by the way, with Olivia Wilde, she had fans and everybody saying, "Well, no, it was just bad lighting." And look at the person on the inside, not the outside. Just shut up. I can't. If you care about this woman, but it scares me when you talk about that and what it will take for people to finally stop deaths.
Sage, you can do such a Bill
Segue.
Maher style segue right now. You've got it, sister.
Segue.
Watch this one. Watch this.
You know, this topic gets me going every single time. There have been, I don't know that we'll ever know the full number of deaths associated directly with and to the COVID-19 vaccines. But there definitely have been deaths of children, and we will never really know how many. It was a gut feeling by me, the non-doctor, the person least qualified to be a doctor on this set right now. But you don't have to be a doctor to be able to connect some dots. And then what happened earlier this week? Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. I want you to just listen because I'm not going to paraphrase it fairly with my anger, but it's talking about healthy kids who were forced to take the COVID-19 vaccine and deaths that resulted from it. Take a look.
In that memo, Dr. Prasad writes, "This is a profound revelation. For the first time, the U.S. FDA will acknowledge that COVID-19 vaccines killed American children. Healthy young children who faced tremendously low risk of death were coerced at the behest of the Biden administration via school and work mandates to receive a vaccine that could result in death. In many cases, such mandates were harmful. It is difficult to read cases where kids 7 to 16 may be dead as a result of COVID vaccines. Putting these facts together, it is horrifying to consider the U.S. vaccine regulation, including our actions, may have harmed more children than we saved. This requires humility and introspection. It requires oversight." And so I wrote a letter to you and your agency back on December 15th. Of the 10 responses, I've got 3 out of 10. Please, will you commit to responding fully to my December oversight letter?
Leaked memos from the FDA, and thank goodness that someone out there is leaking these things and turning them in and making sure that none of us forget and that the investigation continues. You have that news. You have former Fauci advisor David Maher, who was indicted this week, and destroying memos, allegedly lying to Congress about funding risky research in China before the pandemic, all during and after. It's going to take, I don't know that we'll ever, Dr. Drew, get to the bottom of all of this.
Yeah.
And it reminded me, unfortunately, of the pardon of Dr. Fauci by former President Joe Biden right before he left office. There's got to
Yeah.
be some creative ways to try to hold him accountable. Maybe that's just wishful thinking by me, but I do, and I am not this person. You know this, I think. Like, I don't wish for the downfall of anyone, but this is far beyond just an inconvenience for a couple of weeks, months, years.
Also,
These are
Cindy,
deaths, and so yes.
Oh, yeah. Listen, we know there are deaths. We knew it. In fact, Dr. Joseph Fryman was on my show, and he played me a phone conversation he had with the FDA about a death. And they were like, "Oh, really? We didn't hear about it." Like, the system is severely flawed. They didn't want to hear it. And that Morenz guy that was Fauci's right-hand man, now, I don't know if you saw, we found a trove of emails where he was advising other people how to avoid FOIA, how to do so. what you do, he had all kinds of ideas about it, and that they were actively avoiding any kind of scrutiny. It is possible these people thought they were doing the right thing. They need to, if that's true, they need to come and explain what their thinking was so
Wait,
we can see.
what do you mean
Hang
by the
on.
right thing? I just don't know what you mean by the right thing.
There's going to be some deaths, but it's so many are going to be saved, and we got
Okay.
to stop this virus above all else, and herd immunity. Who knows what they convinced themselves of? They were categorically wrong. Categorically wrong. They were in a hysterical mode. Francis Collins said it publicly. They made no concern for harms, only stop the virus. That is mad doctor crap. That is how you harm insane numbers of healthy people. No one ever talks about, by the way, of years of lives lost. We knew the old
Yes.
people were the ones that could die of it a year or two, maybe 5 years before death anyway. But a 8-year-old, that's 70 years of life lost, minimum. And this is an atrocity. The important thing is, for me, not, putting people in jail, but getting to the truth and certainly shaming people to make sure
Yes.
this never happens again. And certain people, I suppose, will have to go to jail or have to be punished in some way.
So Dave, before you pick up here, and then I'll shut up. This Moran's charged with 1 count of conspiracy, 2 counts of destruction, alteration, falsification of records. So maybe initially they thought for 2 minutes that they were doing the right thing, but once you are trying to go back, and it sounds like it was ongoing, and destroy and falsify things, why are you hiding? What are you trying to hide and fix and sweep under the rug, obviously to protect yourself, if you genuinely thought and knew you were doing the right thing?
And
Dave, you want to try to answer that? Go ahead.
Well, imagine what didn't make it into these emails and what they were saying privately when they, so you have to think about all that too. I think I've mentioned to you guys before that there's a young man who I know, who I think you both know, I'm just not going to mention his name on air, who was in college during COVID, and they, in essence, to stay in college, forced him to get the vax, and he now has myocarditis. He was perfectly healthy before all this, now has a heart condition. I'm pretty sure you guys know him. The other thing is that, I'm very proud that after the 2 weeks to stop the spread, or whatever they said, 15 days to stop the spread, I remember on day 15, I think I said this once on the show, David and I were watching Golden Girls on Lifetime. Or Golden Girls on TV Land, not Lifetime. They were on TV. That sounds a little more masculine, right? That sounded better.
I wish you could read the thought bubble over my head. There's nothing that makes that masculine.
So we're watching Golden Girls on TV Land I think it was literally on day 15, and a commercial came on, and it was talking about the new normal as it relates to COVID. And I immediately was like, I'm done, because these commercials take time. They have to be produced and everything else. So how did you produce? And it doesn't take 2 weeks to do these things. How did this massive corporation or the CDC, whatever was putting out that commercial, have a commercial ready to go about the new normal on the day they told us it was 2 weeks to stop the spread? So that was one thing that tipped it off for me. But the other thing that happened a little bit later that really got it is related to this story, which is when they were really going after the kids. And I had nieces and nephews that were in school, and my brother was very conflicted on what to do and all that stuff. I remember thinking that it had very little to do with the kids, because I was listening to Jay Bhattacharya and a lot of the sensible people on this. And it seemed to me that if they could get you to inject your kid with this, they have you forever. Because you as a parent now, and Sage, you can definitely speak to this, you as a parent now, you've allowed your child to be injected with something. You don't know what it was. You kind of got forced into it. Everyone's doing it. It's the worst sort of public pressure, toxic stew stuff. But once you do it to your kid, you pretty much have to be all in on that, because you cannot be confronted with the reality that you don't know what you did. So now that Ron Johnson, who's really good, by the way, I mean, he's like one of the good guys in the Senate, and he really does care, and, he's fighting for what he believes in. Now that he's shedding some light on this, I do believe Bobby Kennedy when he says we'll look into it. But I really, when they started going after the kids, it was just another thing. I was just like, this is something else. This is not about stopping this thing.
And I will say that I Dave, you never got it, right?
No, I never got it. I'm very proud that
because
I
your
never
whole
got it.
team, I mean,
Yeah.
I bragged to my friends about how you handled that, Dave, and then it was kind of the last straw, your decision to leave California, and you brought your entire team out there
When
to
that
Florida.
idiotic OSHA, remember when the OSHA mandate came out and it said if you have a company with over 1,000 people, then they have to be vaxxed. And it was like, that was completely arbitrary. I had 2 companies with about, let's say, a dozen total employees. It doesn't matter what the number is. How absurd. To
Yep.
work for me, you are going to have to, yes, I'm going to force Connor right here to be injected with something to work for me. It's completely psychotic.
Hey,
You're
Dave,
welcome, by
don't
the
you
way.
remember Barbara
Guy's
Ferrer
not
in
even paying attention.
Barbara Ferrer in LA County,
Yes.
the LA County, and she had that red, yellow, and green grid
Yeah.
that before we can get out of lockdown, we had to get to green. We're still not in green. She's a sociologist. She's not a clinician. She knew what the hell. I said, this was made up. This is crazy. We'll never get to green. We will never get to green. I'll say
Drew,
that again.
there was the other woman, Sheila Kuhl, the city council member, who was the deciding 3-2 vote to close the restaurants again when they had opened them temporarily and then they reclosed them. And then after the vote, because it wasn't going to kick in till midnight that night, she went and had dinner at her favorite Italian restaurant.
Yep. I remember that.
I can't.
No,
It's
so
endless. But
crazy.
this is for me, like on Twitter, on X, this is one of those things. There's 2 things that I put hashtag never forget: 9/11 and this.
Yeah,
And it is
yeah.
so important that we never, ever, ever forget for
Mhm.
ourselves, but for our children. And I told you I'm heading up to High Point University. My son graduates tomorrow, and one of the reasons why my oldest daughter and my son chose that school, especially my daughter, she led the way, graduated in 25. It's because it's one of the few universities that didn't mandate it to go to college there. And it was, I wouldn't have allowed it elsewhere, of course, but I let her lead. And that's why. And I think, and that was a tough time, right? 2020, 2021, and a lot of universities. I mean, my alma mater, I'm on the board of trustees at my alma mater now at Indiana. They required it. So I just want to also, maybe we can end peacefully this topic before Dave segues, is praising so many people who did have the courage to say no. Dave Rubin, you and what you did for your team. And I think it will continue to empower others. There's going to be a next time, one way or another. It might look a little bit different. And so to not be afraid to question, even if you get gaslit and doxxed and all those things, because we usually know what's right, and especially as a mother.
I think we actually should leave it on that note. Sage, we know you're going to have a great weekend because you got another graduation. And Drew, you're a new granddad for the second time. So I assume there'll be some grandfatherly duties this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. I was down there yesterday. I came up today to do this and a couple other things. I'm going right back down. And Susan is more the baby person, but we also have now a 14-month-old daughter, and that's what I'm into. So I'm doing the baby and the
Daughter
14-month-old.
or granddaughter?
Granddaughter. Well, it's a new grandson, and the former was the
Listen, I'm just
14-month-old.
confirming that there's no news that you have for us.
Yeah. That was a slight
14-month-old.
slip. That was a slight slip, but you never know. You never know. You know, well, while you're with your granddaughter and you're with your son and daughters, I assume, we're just getting through a stomach virus over here. So I'm just praying for a limited. Amount of changing of the I mean, everything that could be happening the other night was happening.
Nice.
But it's all good. You know, I'll tell you
days.
something. This is going to sound corny at the end, but maybe this is a nice thing to go to the weekend. So I'm in the midst of all of this, and David also was not feeling well. It just hit everybody here.
Let me just say,
puke and-
one last thing. It's one of the joys of grandparenthood. You don't have to deal with that stuff. So that's the parent
And the
thing.
mom.
You know what? To that point, this is going to sound corny, but there's puking and diarrhea, and it's just endless. And it was just literally endless. And David's not feeling everything. So I'm really in the thick of it. And fortunately, I didn't get sick. And I remember it was just everywhere, and it smelled, just the whole thing. And then I swear to you, you know how you just randomly have a thought that pops in your head, you have no idea. And I really thought in that moment, like, these are the good old days. Like I will cherish these days one day, which is also, you know,
it's true.
Yeah.
If all they need is a
little
diaper
less puke would have
change,
been.
a diaper change and some love versus my kids reach out when they want money. I'll take the puke. Yeah.
Fair. You're right. I should stick with the poop and the diarrhea.